As you guys know, earlier in the week, we talked about how Van went on a tangent when they were talking about the Adin Ross situation, talking about, oh, we need to stop criticizing or talking about black men and all this other stuff. And it's all like, dude, that's not even what the conversation was about. However, this week, no, not this week. Okay. I wish I can get on here and tell you guys that Van gave Rachel Lindsay an apology, except he didn't. Basically, what he did was double down and still make the conversation about him. So, as you guys know, earlier in the week, they were talking about the Adin Ross situation, and somehow Van took that as a personal dig and started playing the victim, talking about how black men are always put to the side and thrown away. Basically, the conversation had nothing to do with what Rachel was talking about. But on top of that, he also was over talking her, disrespecting her, and not understanding what she was saying. And let's just go ahead and watch the video, you guys. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's get to it. All right, you guys ready for this non-apology?
But I think obviously we need to kind of talk about what happened on Monday. I guess it was Monday for us. It was Tuesday for you guys. And the conversation at the end of the podcast around Adin Ross and the men around Adin Ross. All right. First, before I talk, Rachel, do you have anything you want to say?
No.
Zero.
I have nothing to say.
Really?
I think the floor is yours.
Okay, cool. So this is what I'll say.
No, I'm surprised she didn't want to. I'm surprised she didn't want to say anything. Like, you know, last week, blah, blah, blah. It was, I guess it was more or less like, I'm going to let you hang yourself. And after you guys watch this, you'll know what I mean.
Everything I say, I'm responsible for. Everything. So it doesn't matter whether or not context is my ally or not. If you can clip it and put it out there and I said it, it's on me. So there's nothing that I said on Monday or Tuesday show that I am going to attempt to walk back. What I will say is this, though. What happened insofar as me talking about some of the feelings I have of criticisms that seem to be omnipresent around black men during that segment was just ill-timed, because that has to be a part of the conversation surrounding Adin Ross. I understand that. It has to be a part of the conversation because Adin Ross is a hip-hop cosplayer. And you have to ask the question, what is he cosplaying? He certainly isn't cosplaying Ninth Wonder.
No.
Or Sway.
Nope.
Or, you know, Chuck D. He's cosplaying a certain type of, let's face it, black man that he is around. And that is leading him to act the way he acts. Mm-hmm. And then I think he is legitimately surprised when he is held to a different standard than even they are sometimes. Because when some of these guys that we're talking about say or do stuff, or some of the Adin's minions that we don't even know, we kind of brush them off oftentimes as the knuckleheads within our culture that we kind of get out of here, right? Remember, even when we talked about Tyler, the Creator, back in the day, and we talked about his tweets, and I go, you know, those tweets never really bothered me, no matter how they looked, be they anti-black, be they whatever, because I'm like, I looked at those guys as like the young knucklehead niggas, and it's whatever, you don't take them seriously.
Real quick, but I want to say this about the Adin Ross situation, because basically it's us as black people being tired of white people always talking about us. It's like, shut up and talk about your own people. Like, leave us alone. That's more or less what it's about.
We don't do that all the time, but we do it sometimes. And having that conversation about how far that culture goes and how it informs somebody who is white, who's outside of the culture, you have to have it. You have to have it. So if I have frustrations about the way we talk about black men on higher learning, or the way black men are talked about in general, that was the wrong time to bring it up. That's just true. Two things, though, I will address directly. One is the reason why I think that happened. It has to do with that feeling, but it also has to do with glasses. Had Glasses on the podcast. Glasses, to me, me and Glasses argue all the time. Glasses has a lot of what I would call bad ideas, right? But Glasses is thoughtful, inquisitive. He knows he's got a big brain. He uses it sometimes to incite you. He uses it sometimes to rabble rouse. But at the same time, he is a friend of mine. So when we were having that conversation, where I saw the conversation had, I actually I felt, to be honest with you, somewhat vindicated that it was him that was standing in the gap, because he, to me, represents a black man that I feel like is being cast aside now, is being not tightened up, but like suffocated. And we don't have any use for it. And they're bad, and they're what we need to evolve away from. And some of the ideas and stuff like that, yeah, that's true, we do. But there seems to be something that's metastasizing that
I think what he's trying to correlate is like Glasses is a street dude. So, those are kind of ostracized and put to the side or whatever. And we don't take them like seriously in a way of like, oh, we respect, or we don't show them, not take them seriously, but we don't show them respect, right? Because we just look at them as street or hood or something like that, right? But here's the thing. That had nothing to do with the conversation. If anything, Glasses has been praised all this week for speaking up, because so many black men, the one that Rachel was specifically talking about, are not stepping up and saying anything. They were very hush. Now, because of all the backlash, they're starting to, even you see in Whack 100, starting to kind of backtrack and be like, oh, this and that. But for the most part, if Glasses didn't say anything, nobody would have said anything. Let's continue.
I am starting to notice. So when we had the conversation, and it was like, okay, look, the homie that I brought on the podcast that you guys didn't really like, and I knew that you guys wouldn't like him. I was almost trolling you guys, bringing him on. Look what he did. He is the one that said enough on this black lady, and used what he uses, which is the street ethic that he's learned, to say, if you continue, these are the ramifications and repercussions. And that was also interesting to me, because what we have not been able to do is establish any ramifications or repercussions for cultural malfeasance. We haven't been able to do it. As a matter of fact, the internet has undone that. The internet has undone the ability to really mete out cultural justice for most people. Like, for most people, that's a fight on the right now. The fight that they're having on the right now is essentially about how they get Nick Fuentes in the Groyper movement in line, how they deal with them, because the power structures that they have to cut people off don't exist anymore. You can't deplatform anybody. You can't silence them. You have to contend with what it is that they're saying. And like, how do you contend with something that's so disgusting? They don't know how to do it. We lost that battle first, because a lot of the people with the worst ideas, a lot of the people with the worst shit became the biggest, gigantic people. Neon, if I'm talking about the streamers, Neon, Adin Ross, even of these new streamers I'm talking about, even I Show Speed, like even early on, he was on some different bullshit, right? Anyway, I digress. So that was a part.
But I Show Speed, you see an evolution, which is important.
Part of that situation, and me sort of overreacting to that. But there's something else. There's something that people clocked, and they're right. I've gotten so many different opinions, and there's one thing that is correct that people are saying. I want them to know that's correct. People have said, just generally, and actually even you said, just generally, that they don't understand why I see myself in a certain type of black man. Now, I cannot say that I see myself in anybody that's surrounding Adin Ross.
Okay.
Those are like young knucklehead niggas. I don't even think they know what they're doing, right? But what I will say is, when you said that, and when it's being said to me, that you guys are basically right. I do see myself in the type of black men that are most routinely criticized by platforms like ours or other platforms that are trying to set right the cultural expectations of Black people. I see myself in.
See, but this is where he's wrong again, because if you don't identify with the quote unquote knuckleheads around Adin Ross, then you should know Rachel wasn't talking about you. And so your point is minute. So what are we talking about?
Them more than I see myself in the people that would be pure or upstanding or upright. Like my father was a good dad, put together a family, but then had kids outside of his family. My uncles were drug addicts. They were brilliant men. They were drug users. They were loving men that were violent. They were regulated men that were completely irregular, and they all died early. Like, the place that I come from, what I come from, is not what people would consider to be in any way elevated. Is really, if there was.
I never want to make fun of anybody's past family trauma or anything like that. But nigga, that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on. That's for your therapist. That's not for us. Like, what is going? Like, I don't know how that whole Adin Ross conversation triggered all of this. Let me know in the comment section. Y'all can drag me in the comment section. I don't mind. But to me, or for me, this had nothing to do with the Adin Ross situation. Like, you was out of line, out of pocket. Like, the explanation is not getting me.
And I want to make sure that my mother, my sister, and my grandmother, who are family that still live in Louisiana, are set apart from this, because those are three of the most elegant, beautiful women that I've ever known, right? But like, I talked to you on the phone, like, my grandmother, my father's mother, was a man's side chick. Like, she had 3 children for a man who was married, right? Like 3 kids for him.
That's how
for a
we
guy
did
who
it
had
back in the day.
A whole nother family. She's on her deathbed and she's like saying stuff to me, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know that JT was playing on me, and I didn't know this, and blah 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 blah." It's like, by the time I was in too late, I asked my dad about that. I'm like, "Dad, what is she talking about?" Dad's like, "Van, she's confessing. She's absolving. She's trying to get absolution, right? She knows she doesn't have much time left." So when I say all of this, I'm not saying this to in any way try to pull on anybody's heartstrings. What I'm saying is that I legitimately see myself as somebody who was able to expand their mind a little bit, read some books, and have different connections, and be able to understand the systemic dysfunction that makes brothers who are perfectly good make the wrong decisions about their lives and about the lives of the people around them. And I truly believe that. I don't believe in the defectiveness of the.
Now, I don't know everything about Van's history and stuff like that, but what I know him from is working from TMZ. I don't know if he was ever a street dude or anything like that, but I know him from TMZ. And specifically, I know him for the whole Kanye situation when he checked Kanye. And I feel like the reason why we look at Van and we get disappointed with him is because we remember when he checked Kanye over that slavery was a choice bullshit. And I think we're still holding on to that. And now we're realizing that was just a moment in time and we need to let that shit go.
People where I come from, or the black men from Sea to Shining Sea. I don't believe in it. I believe that they, in a sense, not totally, are victims of a historical and contemporary wilderness that they have not yet found themselves in. And I deeply, deeply, deeply believe that. And if I didn't believe that, then I guess I would feel the need to cull them, culturally cull them, and put them in a place where they could no longer have any influence. I don't think that that's true. I don't. And so as we continue to have conversations and have had conversations on higher learning, I think it's important for me to be like, yo, when we talk about what black men are responsible for and what black men are doing, there has to be, to me, nuance and contextualization into how we speak about brothers and how we particularly speak about young brothers. You guys, this is not to excuse any of what you're seeing. I know, particularly from
if you are a coon, I don't want nothing to do with you. Simple as that. So if you're enabling somebody like Adin Ross, like Whack 100, I don't give a damn about that guy. He's weird. And yeah, he's just weird. So I don't give a damn about him. So, ostracizing him or kicking him to the side, okay. I don't know what he's getting about, like, oh, we can't just do this and just forget about these. Like, who are we forgetting about? Because this has nothing to do with the Adin Ross situation.
From our women and from our older people that you guys are fed up. I completely understand. I understand that you are fed up. You want better from the people that you share your community with. I get it. I want better for you. I want better for them. But for me, what I have to be able to do is speak to some of the things systemically that ail and plague these neighborhoods that create the outcomes that are created. I'm not going to go too much longer, but I'll say this. It is easy to create distance between you and what you think the proletariat or the regular or the undesirables, as one person put them that responded to me, said, Van, you're going to get so much love from the undesirables. I don't want to be a desirable. I don't want to be a nigga y'all look up to. I don't want to be somebody that you guys think is going to have the perfect answer to stuff all the time.
We don't
want to be one of the good ones, because the only thing that people do to those people is shred them. What I want to be on this podcast and with everyone that listens is the most authentic, imperfect, but present version of myself. And y'all not always gonna like me. That's the only thing I can give y'all. But I really do appreciate the engagement for everyone that reached out that was legitimately concerned either about the way that I reacted or I responded, or the other people that were super mad about it. You're all entitled to your opinions. It's all gravy. Fuck the Reddit. I didn't go on there. But everything else is completely above board. I'm fine with it. I felt like I owed y'all that. And can we get into the podcast now? We can take a little break.
We can take a break.
All right.
So there was no apology to Rachel at all. None. And what I know, and what a lot of people that I've seen online criticizing him was, him taking the conversation and basically taking it over and making it about something that it wasn't, and him playing the victim. And here's the thing. This isn't the only time that he misunderstood Rachel. And I don't even want to say misunderstood. I think he knows what she's saying, but he just feels like he needs to be in control. But this isn't the only time that he ever did that, last week. Now, he also did that when she had brought up the situation with Keith Edwards. Oh, he played your clip when you were criticizing Jasmine Crockett, but she was trying to explain, like, okay, you can criticize her, but what he was trying to do was say, hey, the black guy agrees with me, so I must be right, and using it in a different kind of way. She was explaining that. He was like, oh, no, he was right. He was right. He was right. And it's all like, no, you're not getting it. And it's almost like he just wants to have an argument for argument's sake. And having a podcast, I understand that you want an opposing side. You don't want everybody to agree because it's the part of the show. But when something is clear cut, you just give your perspective and be like, okay, yeah, I understand. But Van is doing this argumentative thing for no reason. Like, it's arguments that you shouldn't have. Like, it's pretty plain and simple in your face. And Rachel is walking on eggshells a lot of times, trying not to offend or trying not to make this a big deal. And, that's why I also believe that last week they cut the mic off because they're trying to end the show because they've seen it turning left. Remember, they cut off the mic and then all of a sudden you heard the sound back and then you could hear Van mic was back on. But I think they were trying to cut it off early because Rachel even said, I have to go. And she was getting pissed too. And it's all like, if we can see the tension and the tension is not fake, I think the tension is very real. And here's the thing. Rachel got to speak up for herself. In this show, it wasn't pretentious and they didn't fight or anything like that. So I think he's learning, but she mentioned that she has one more payment to her ex-husband and then she's done. Listen, at this time, Rachel, you don't need the money. So you either stand up for yourself or you walk away. But at this point, it's like he does it because you allow it. And I even see Rachel, she'll shut down instead of speaking up. And when you shut down like that, you're basically submitting. And again, I'm not trying to tell Rachel to quit the show, but if Van is not going to learn or he's not going to change, and again, maybe he gave her an apology privately, but I'm very shocked that he didn't say, hey, y'all was saying that I disrespected Rachel. This is my sister. I love her. You know, we got a brother and sister relationship. It was none of that. I was expecting that. I ain't going to lie. You know, but let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Did you expect Van to give an apology, or am I reading too much into it? Let me know, because again, this is like not, and trust me, I just gave you those two examples, but there's been multiple examples where Van be out of line and he be taking the conversation to somewhere that it don't need to be. Now it's because he been hanging around that goddamn Hassan Piker. And you know, Hassan Piker is a crazy leftist. Now, this podcast is more left leaning, but Rachel will be considered like, you know, the typical Democrat, right? Where you have Van, he's a leftist, and they're like very extreme on their views and this whole revolutionary. And it's all like, my ninja, calm down with all that. You know, like, we in the fight, but we don't need to burn down the system and then rebuild it. I don't even want to get into that, y'all. Just hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I love y'all for watching. But we out of here. Deuces, everybody. But come back. You know we got more content.